Hi, my name is Keontae Wilson Robinson, and this is my final project called SWAT. And so if we play this, you can see there's an intro with the sounds that I made on Adobe Illustrator. And then we have the loading screen that I also made on Adobe Illustrator. And so this is the menu screen. And if you watch for a little bit, you can see that I made it so that the menu screen switches to 3 different backgrounds. And also I made it so that when you see the menu screen, the background music plays. So when I go to controls, the background music stops and the controls pops up. So the instructions is to press the lever to start the game, and if you eliminate all the bad guys within the time limit, you win. And the controls is the basic controls: the WSAD, the arrow to look around, and the space bar to shoot your gun. And so if you select the character, it'll bring you to the character selection screen. And how I set it up is a basic game. When you click on one of the characters, they'll say their name, and then I made it so that their favorite song plays. So if I choose Peyton. Peyton, reporting for duty. This is Roar by Katy Perry. And if I choose Jada, this song is called Return of the Mac. Never heard it before, but whatever. So we're going to choose Peyton as a character. We're going to go back to the main menu, and we are going to start the game. And we have the loading screen, which I'll speed up. And so this is my Alice world. And if we press the lever like the instructions said, it'll give us our weapon, and it'll start the timer. It'll tell us to go. And the objective is to shoot each character. And you got the sound. If I can shoot right. I made a list of different sounds that my friends made, and I am so sorry. When you shoot a bad guy, it'll randomly choose a sound from one of the lists. Bad aim. Bad aim. Nice, baby. Taking out the trash. So in this case, the time ran out. I lost, and I made it so where when you lose or you win, it tells you, and it takes you back to the menu screen. So let's do this again. Jada, reporting for duty. So we start the time. No. That was one of the sounds she made. I don't know why. Come on. Hasta la vista, baby. Hasta la vista, baby. Hasta la vista, baby. Taking out the trash. Taking out the trash. So there is a flaw within the game that I'll discuss later. So in this case, I won, and it tells you, and it returns you back to the menu screen, and you can go back, choose a different character, go back to the menu screen, controls, and do whatever you want. It'll just repeat the process over and over again. So that's the game. And if we exit out, I can show you all the different code and stuff that I put in the game. So first of all, I put in a lot of objects in my world, And that was one of the reasons why the program kept crashing. I put too many objects and I had to take some out. So I have a lot of properties, and these hitbox lists, if I go over here, I'll show you what those lists are. You go through the wall and go to this guy right here, and you go down to hit 1. So how I did it was that I have a bullet, and when you press spacebar, it'll shoot the gun. So the bullet will go forward as seen by the camera. So wherever the camera is looking, the bullet will move forward. And I made all these hitboxes on every single character. So that way, when the bullet hits one of the hitboxes for the character will disappear. So as you've seen when I was playing my game, if I made the spheres visible, you would have saw that the bullet would have hit the sphere and then the character would have disappeared. But the flaw to this is that when the bullet passes through 2 spheres, it combines the voices. So if you heard like Jada said 2 things at the same time because the bullet passed through 2 spheres. So there is a flaw to it. So the different things that I used, we got hold on, let me go up. World. I used a lot of methods, and for the menu screen, for the menu screens and all that, I had a system. So I have the intro screen visible. What that does is it makes all the components of the intro screen visible. The intro screen position will position all of them in front of the camera, and intro screen enable animates the intro screen. I have that for the intro screen, I have that for the loading screen, and I have that for the main menu. And so a little bit more about the intro, a little bit more about this right here. If you go to intro screen position, so I spent a lot of time with this. When I edited all my stuff, I put them in the world, and I had to set it up to where it would position them exactly in front of the camera. It would position each letter, each background directly in front of the camera, exactly where I wanted it. And that took a little bit of time entering all these little numbers to get them exactly where you wanted them. So enough about the loading screens. Now let's go to, so in buttons pressed, I have a parameter called selected button. And if you go over here, I should have, when a button is pressed on something, when the mouse is clicked on anything, it'll perform this method. And so if the object clicked is equal to the start game button, it'll remove the main menu, it'll start the loading screen, and then it'll spawn you in front of the military storage unit, and you'll face the military storage unit. If you click the controls button, it'll remove the main menu, it'll show the control menu, it'll wait 5 seconds, and then it'll remove the control menu and go back to the main menu. And then there's, other things, but let's move on. I have recursion in my advanced timer. So I have the parameter time where you can set the time to anything you want. And so I also have Boolean logic, all enemies gone. If you go to the functions, all enemies gone, basically this code right here is saying if you killed all the enemies, if you killed all the enemies, return true. If you didn't kill all the enemies, return false. So the recursion, if the time is not equal to 0, subtract it by 1, and then call the method again. And when the time gets to 0, when the time gets to 0, it'll say you lost, and it'll return you back to the menu screen, and it is right here. If the time is less than or equal to 0, wait, show that you lose, wait 1 second, and it'll turn the HUD off, and it'll send you back to the main menu. And if all the enemies are gone and the time is greater than 0, it'll say that you won. It'll wait 1 second, and then it'll return you back to the menu screen. And what else? I have some other Boolean logic. I have the is hit. So basically this is saying, so I have a list called, actually, hold up. I didn't use this in the code, so I should have deleted that. I have a can move, and basically this is saying if there's any menu screens, if you can see any menu screen, then you can't move the camera. But if there isn't a menu screen on the screen, you can move a camera. There's a character on screen. This is, you got selected character. I honestly, this is one of the things that I should have worked on. I should have added comments, because if you see in the beginning methods, if you saw in the beginning methods, like the intro, like I have comments, show everything on the intro screen. That tells me what this code is. I have the intro screen enabled. I have comments for this, animate the intro screen. I know what that, but later on, when I went through all of this, I just stopped adding comments, because like it was really, like, I didn't have enough time for that. Like, nobody has time for that. I mean, if I had another day, I could have, added comments, but yeah. So that's basically it. I have the character list. This is all the characters that you can select. And also, I forgot to say that I made a sphere called character sphere, and it should be character sphere. So when you click on one of the characters' buttons, it'll set that picture's vehicle to the character sphere. So for example, if I choose Peyton's button, it'll set Peyton's vehicle to the character sphere, and Jada's button to the world. And if I click Jada, it'll set Jada's picture to the character sphere, and Peyton's picture to the world. So that determines what character you have and what sounds that the game should make when you're playing as the character. And that's I have Peyton sounds, Jada sounds. That's basically the list of each. Those are the sounds that I put into the program, and that's basically it. So if I close all, there's nothing. I mean, I have the, so if, remind me later, never choose remind me later, but in this situation I can choose remind me later. So the movement system was, I had to make it a little bit more advanced, because in Alice it moves relative to the camera's orientation. So if I look if I look up and I said move forward, it'll make my character fly into the air. So I didn't want that because I want it to be a shooter game. I want you to stay on the ground. So what I had to do was I had to create a sphere. I had to create a sphere called, I think I called it movement sphere. And I put the movement sphere in the same location as the camera, and I set the vehicle of the movement sphere to the camera. And so whenever I move the camera forward, I would say move forward relative to the movement sphere. So that way, when I'm looking up, the camera moves forward relative to the movement sphere instead of going flying in the air. So that was a little bit tedious and complicated. So that's about it for explaining this. And so now is the presentation. My game is called SWAT, and I was inspired to make this game because of the game that I play called Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Siege. And if you don't know what Rainbow Six Siege is, it's a first-person shooter game, and it's a SWAT team versus a terrorist group, and your player plays as a SWAT member. In this case, the SWAT member is my friends, and you need to eliminate all the terrorists. And this is a timed exercise, like in my game. If you don't kill all the terrorists within the time limit, you lose. And my game is rated M for mature, 17 and over, because my game is a little bit violent. It has guns in it, so we don't want little kids playing gun games. So my initial thoughts, I went overboard with the idea because what I wanted to make was I wanted to make an actual game, a game that I play on my Xbox with a menu screen, character selections, we got logos, all that stuff. And so I wanted to create a world that looked like a military base, but I'm pretty sure I said earlier, Alice cannot handle a lot of objects. So when I tried to do this idea, Alice kept crashing. And now we go into our limitations because I kept getting errors and I was getting frustrated. And I found out that, Alice couldn't handle all the objects that I was putting into the world. So I had to take out a lot of stuff. I actually cut out a lot. I cut out pictures of my friends because initially I wanted my friends to be the hostages, and I wanted the enemies to be enemies. So this is how I wanted it. I wanted so that if you shoot a hostage, it decreases your score, and if you shoot an enemy, it increases your score, and when the time is over, it gives you the score. But Alice kept crashing, so I had to take that out. And yeah, so the process that I did go through, I had to create the menu screens and intros. I had to design a military storage unit. I had to make the layout of the map. I had to create the characters, create the hitboxes, and code the gameplay. So if you didn't know already, I went to Eastern Technical High School for interactive media production. And what they taught me how to use the Adobe editing programs. So I know this is the loading screen that I made. You can see in the right picture, the product. And so in the middle, you can see that I'm shaping the sword. And then if you see that I'm starting to create the letters to look like the shape of the sword. And I'm going to continue on because, I am taking a little bit. Let's see. So if you see, yeah, I'm starting to create the letters. So let's go.
Okay, continue on.
Okay, I'll continue. So for the menu screens and intros, I use Photoshop, and these are my friends. Like I said earlier, I cut out a lot more pictures, but Alice couldn't handle it, so I had to take a lot of pictures out. So in the video in the middle, I'm cutting out my friend Peyton, and yeah, basically that's what I did for my characters. And for the military storage unit, Alice didn't have a military storage unit, so I had to create my own military storage unit. So in the left picture, you see that I took a picture off of Google of a military storage unit, and I took the material of that, I put it in Adobe Photoshop, and what I did was I created the shape that I wanted. Then I imported it into Alice, and I used the quad view to start shaping, to start shaping and copying the different parts to make it look like the picture on the left. And so the character and the sound. So before my classes, I got my friends to say some things inside of this voice recording device that I had. And so after I did that, I went home, and in Adobe Audition, I cut the beginning and the end so it could be exact. And I have two samples of what my friend said. That's my friend Jada. And that's my friend Peyton. It was a really fun experience, and I really enjoyed this project. So the hitboxes, I showed you earlier. I created circles for the hitboxes, so when the bullet passes through one of the circles, the character disappears. So that's it. And the lessons learned is I learned that Alice cannot handle too many objects, and that I should practice better file organization, because in the beginning of the project, I was strict on naming the files and putting them in specific locations. But as it took longer and I progressed through the project, I didn't really care about naming it like specific things, and I just put the file in random locations. And that's bad, because when you want to go back and find the assets, you can't find them, because you don't know where it is, or what specific name you named it. I mean, so that's it for this presentation. And yeah.
Okay, well, thank you, Keontae. Very good. How long did it take you to create your game?
It took me approximately 15 hours.
Okay, and what was your feelings after the game was completed?
So after I completed the game, I was really relieved that I completed it. But I was really happy, because even though I couldn't put all the things that I wanted to put in it, like the product was really nice.
Okay, great. I agree. And do you have any advice for upcoming Alice programmers for next semester?
So first, the advice that I would give you is Alice cannot handle too many objects, or it will crash. So plan a project that doesn't have more than 50 objects. And also, I mean, I'd say I created a pretty advanced project. I mean, because some of my other peers, I mean, their projects were simple. I would say go for the advanced, like try to go above and beyond what you're expected, because like my product, I really like it. And yeah, I'd rather, I wouldn't really change it.
So what did you learn leading up to being able to create a game? What did you do throughout the semester to get you to this point?
So throughout the semester, I kind of like, I gathered all the skills that we learned in class. So all the skills that we learned, for example, the distance to, the Boolean logic, the recursion. I used all of what we learned and incorporated it into my project.
Can you take shortcuts reading the chapter? Taking shortcuts, not looking at the tips and techniques portions of the chapter. What would you advise someone as they go through the semester and they have their weekly assignments?
There was some tips and techniques that were really helpful, and I would advise students to look at the tips and techniques. I don't think I used a lot of tips and techniques.
Did you code as you read?
Did I code as I that really helped. I coded as I read. That really helped. The book codes it exactly as the assignments asked for, so you might as well code while you read and get 100 points.
Okay, great. Well, thank you. We enjoyed you in the class this semester, and we're looking for good things with you throughout your time at CCBC and your computer science major.
Thank you.
Okay, good night.
Good night.